Let them manage. A Small Business Guide to People Management, written by Stell. Chapter 4. Staff Reviews. It may come as a bit of a shock to you, but once someone comes to work for you, it's not just a job. You are now responsible for a part of their career development. They will want to know from you what their objectives are over the coming months, and more specifically, how achieving those objectives will also help your firm achieve its objectives. Staff reviews, therefore, are extremely important. The staff member whose career you are now responsible for will also want to know what you think of them. You might just think that once you have given them the job to do, they can just get on with it, and that's the end of that. But you must remember how you felt when you were an employee, and the thought of, what does my boss really think of me, was very often on your mind. I strongly suggest that the first review for your new employee should be after about 3 months, and this should be quite informal. What I mean by that is that it shouldn't be a written review. It should be just a chat. The first 3 months of any employment are the most stressful, as the new employee is not only getting used to the task at hand, but also the office environment and the people they are working with. And the most important thing about this chat is that you ask them how they are feeling about the work and the people they work with. You should understand whether they feel they are being adequately supported, adequately remunerated, and adequately trained. Discussion will often flow from there because you are talking about their requirements rather than talking about your own. This initial interview is by its very nature all about them. You will learn from this chat who they get on with, who they don't get on with, what they think of the work, whether they find aspects of it difficult, and how they see the rest of the year unfolding. From your perspective, you must reiterate what you want from them, as this would have been discussed at the initial interview some time ago. Hopefully, they will be enthusiastic, and you can also take the opportunity to paint a broader picture of how the company is doing and how important it is that their efforts are feeding into the overall performance of the company. It is human nature to want to be a part of a team and to have your efforts in that team respected and acknowledged. So hopefully at the end of that meeting, the employee will feel motivated and reassured as to their place in your company. From there on, the reviews of staff performance should be, in my view, at least twice a year. The annual review should be in depth, with the mid-year review being a catch-up. Of course, there is nothing stopping an employee coming to chat to you if they want clarity and reassurance at any time of the year. This should, in fact, be encouraged. Although your employees will be operating within their own bubble, they also want to hear what things are like from your view as the owner and CEO. Of course, they want to know that it's mainly good news, but I think that it's best to share the good with the bad and to be, more than anything, realistic. What I tend to do once a year with my staff is to produce a 2-page broadcast catch-up. On the first page is a review of all the things that I wanted to do in the last year, hoped to do in the last year, and maybe didn't do in the last year. It's a chance to recognize things that were achieved, but which weren't necessarily planned. It is a time for bold honesty as regards any mistakes that were made and celebrate successes, whether big or small. The basic facts of the company's turnover rise and fall and profit rise and fall should also be revealed at this juncture. On the next page of the review, I always outline a schedule of my plans for the company over the next 12 months. Again, detail is important, as the employees like to know what it is that you are planning to do. The plans, as ever, must be realistic and achievable, because if they are not, then come 12 months hence, you are going to have to tell your staff why you failed to achieve your goals. It's a time for honesty and self-reflection, but your staff will like you for trying, and they will appreciate your honesty. One of the benefits of this exercise is not only the benefit of self-reflection, but it also helps the employees think about how their efforts, their job description, and their objectives fit into the overall company objectives. This is known as goal congruence, i.e., where the employees' personal objectives align with the company objectives. The next part of the review process, which I think is very key, is a questionnaire to the employee. Again, just like in the interview stage and the first review stage, this forms the basis of the discussion which you will have with them at their review. Here is a version of a questionnaire that I have given my own staff. Staff review. Example: please let me have the following information: your current salary, when you started at the firm, your starting salary, the number of hours you do per week, and your FTE days holiday per annum, how you feel your career has developed in 2023, exams, experience, etc. Please be as detailed as possible. including where you think you did particularly well compared to the previous year. What was 2023 like for you, work-wise and in your personal life? Be as honest as you dare to. What jobs in the rotation you are yet to do? Your views of what changes the firm should make in 2024? Your views on my plans for 2024 and beyond. Be honest. If they are confusing or unclear, or even if you don't agree with them, tell me. Their answers to these questions will reveal an awful lot about what they think of the company, their future, the company's future, and how ambitious, or not, they are. Once you have had your answers back from them, you are in a position to give your review of their performance back to them. Then you are ready to have your chat. You may think that this is a rather long-winded process and perhaps wonder, what is the point? The reason is that this meeting should have no surprises in it. It should be serious and be a document to refer back to in the months to come, particularly in 1 year when the next review comes around. If there was anything deficient in their performance, you should have raised that long before the review, unless by some chance they have caused a problem just recently. It must also be said that employees do not respect performance reviews that are glib and insincere. Everything is awesome all of the time is not what employees want to hear. They want to hear constructive, detailed advice about how you can help them achieve their goals. It could be technical, or it could be personal, or it could be about their communication style. If you point out to an employee that there is a certain area that needs to be improved, you must also point out how you are going to help them to make that improvement. As I said above, when you are approaching their performance review, you should be talking about fine-tuning their performance rather than wholesale changes. Those big conversations should have been had during the year, if at all. My view is that if you had an employee on board who needed wholesale changes, then they are probably not the right fit, and you should be referring to the chapter on dismissal. I know that sounds harsh, but it is harsh for a reason and fair for all concerned. I give here an example of a performance review. It is brief and written in a friendly and conversational style. It is meant to be motivational and hopefully send that employee forward with a sense of purpose for the year ahead. Bradbury Stell Staff, Review 2023. Connor Smith, 2032 production target £120,000. Production achieved £133,000. An extremely large number, which exceeds the number I referred to as a would-be magnificent achievement a year ago, so there is not much else I can say. So yes, I agree with you, a very good year indeed. The role of operations manager is to get the work in, get the work done, get the work out, as measured by billing, in which case, since you took on this role, you have done extremely well. It clearly suits you. In 2023, you started out into leadership, and this will become a much bigger part of your future, not just here, but wherever you go to afterwards. I think that the chat you initiated about Andrew was a demonstration of leadership. You saw the damage being done and saw that I wasn't aware of it. It was an important intervention. I think I have now steered Andrew into a clearer, narrower path, but he still may be a problem. It is a situation that requires careful monitoring. Jack and I have talked a lot about production quality. We both think that the buddy review system, although expedient, may lead to a dilution in quality. As operations manager, this isn't really your concern per se, but Jack will be exerting more control in future over production quality. Ironically, this, theoretically, could lead to tension with you as you seek to hit the billing budget. But actually, I am sure it won't, and anyway, I think that tension would be a good thing. We don't want to veer too much towards quantity at all costs or towards quality at all costs. There has to be a balance. In future, I will be shown the review sheets and will be stressing to staff that I want to see 5 or fewer review points. More than 10 will be seen as a real problem. I would like you to compile that list of roles and responsibilities, particularly whilst I go through the hiring process for a new admin person. I think it is only important for Alex, Ravi, and Andrew, and I suggest you start this by asking them what they perceive their responsibilities to be. That way, you can see if there is any overlap or gap. Software and hardware are being improved as we speak. Harry is buying new PCs, and Jack is installing a replacement to PTP and new payroll software. I agree about the layout of the office. I do not think we have the budget to complete this in 2024, but we can make a start. Andrew is going to arrange for the disposal of the cabinets, and we will look into getting more desks like the one you sit at, maybe another 2 this year. There is no excuse for all the other clutter, and just like with the sink, it is up to personal responsibility or for the seniors, Jack, you and Harry, to instigate a clear out. Clutter is demotivating. Your production target may seem steep, but remember, fees have gone up. Your salary will rise to £40,000 from £36,000. 2024/25, target production £80,000. Robert Stell, March 2024. Performance appraisals. Always remember that the performance appraisal is a two-way process. It's not just about you judging the abilities of another human being, it's about them judging you and the organization that you lead. It's a two-way conversation. By putting the word appraisal into the title of the conversation, are you not perhaps creating something that is potentially confrontational? My suggestion is to leave the word performance out of it because that is perceived as a judgmental word, and instead just call it an annual review because it is, and should be seen as an opportunity to review all aspects of the company, of the individual, of you as a leader, of the leadership structure and the company prospects, etc. The obvious problem with ambushing an individual with bad news is that their defense mechanisms will naturally kick in. The result? A meaningful dialogue is unlikely to take place. All that will in fact happen is that you start to create fertile ground for an argument. An argument during an annual review is the last result that you want. Be open to listening to their view about you as well. I do not recommend asking direct questions such as, "What do you think of me?" but leading with more constructive questions such as, "Where do you think the company could improve over the next year?" Or, "Where do you think the department could change its procedures?" Or, "What changes in IT would make doing your job easier, would be useful?" These are the questions that get employees involved in trying to make changes to your organization and their own job satisfaction. I heartily recommend that you avoid any kind of grading or rating system when appraising your employees. The idea behind the review is a two-way conversation. Subjective views expressed in a rating can drive down people's enthusiasm and particularly confidence, or even worse, make them think that they are better than they really are. Staff training. Staff development should also include external training. I once worked at a global telecommunications company, and they had a policy that everyone had to take 5 days of external training every year. There was a menu of the different types of training you could undertake, some of which was internal and some of it was external. Clearly, this company had invested a great deal in training, and they also had incredible staff retention rates to prove its success. In my view, this is no coincidence. For a small company, providing 5 days of external training a year is likely to cost several thousands of pounds per employee, so it should be considered carefully. But staff really do have a very high regard for ongoing development opportunities. It shows that you are taking their career seriously and that you are prepared to invest in that person. You should have an honest chat about the kind of training that they feel would be beneficial and compare it to the sort of training that you feel they should have. There is no point trying to train a person in something they have no interest in. I give as an example a member of staff whose communication skills are quite poor. Unless they admit that their skills in this area are lacking, and some people just never ever see it, it is highly unlikely that you are ever going to be able to get them to commit to any training to improve this area. Training doesn't have to be based outside of the office. A trainer can be brought into the company's premises, and the training could even be done online, either as a group or one-to-one online. Clearly, the most expensive kind of training is where an individual travels to the external training session. Those kinds of training sessions are, I believe, the best because it takes the employee out of feeling like they are still at their place of work. It means, in my view, that they are more likely to have a clear mind and therefore more open to receiving new ideas. If you also run an accountancy firm, most of your training budget will be spent training your staff to pass exams that qualify them as an accountant. This is similarly true in many other professional firms, but what if your staff are not training for a professional qualification? Is training really still important? It is absolutely important. It is important on many levels. It is not just that the member of staff sees that you are investing something in them, but obviously you are hoping training will improve their performance at work. It may not be performance in a narrow technical sense, but it could be performance in a broader sense, for example, becoming a better supervisor, manager, or having better communication skills, etc. I don't think training, however, should ever be seen as a fix. For example, let's send this person on a course because they are not very good at talking to other people, because I think that the message the employee receives is, oh, I'm not very good, I need to be sent to school to get better. I think all of your staff need to be given some latitude as to what it is they want to be trained in.